5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 5 of Project Geekology. We are your hosts, Anthony
and Dakota.
And this week we are going to be talking about Overwatch. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the game, the behind the scenes, some of the shorts, the characters, and obviously the characters that we like to play.
I am running this show!
And before we get into that, let's talk about what we've been up to this week. What have you been up to, Dakota?
Oh man, what have I not been up to? As some of you may know, I have a YouTube channel, Geekritique, with my wife, and she has her own channel, Bookritique, where she kind of does book reviews and summaries over on her channel. So on Thursday of last week, and this is why this podcast is coming out late, so I apologize, Anthony, sincerely. It's 100% my fault that we're so late this week. But we decided we were going to pull all the videos from our backlist of stuff to record and just do it in one day. And we did a record 9 videos of content, 5 for Geekritique, 4 for Bookritique. And this past weekend, I've just been editing like 2.5 videos a day. And I'm exhausted from editing, but I'm almost done. 8 out of 9. Tomorrow I should be able to complete the last one. So I'm excited about that.
Music to my ears.
Yeah, and it ranges from stuff like an Enola Holmes review, some Mandalorian Season 2 predictions. We talk a little bit about last week's podcast on that episode. And different stuff. Legend of Korra review, some MCU stuff for Geekritique, and other stuff like Snow White book reviews on Bookritique. So I'm excited to finally get all that out there because there's a lot of really good content that we made, and I'm excited to hear some of the responses from our audience. But that's pretty much all I did on my side. What about you, Anthony?
Well, I know that I speak for a lot of our listeners and that we definitely appreciate you making the time to record this podcast. I mean, you do have a lot of work with your YouTube channel and it's definitely high quality content, so you guys definitely need to go over there and check it out.
Thanks.
For me, what I've been up to is that I've been continuing my movie and TV show watching. I finally finished Cobra Kai.
Gotcha!
Ooh.
And man, that second season, I mean, both seasons were great, but the second season just ended crazy. I mean, there's this like crazy like school fight that Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai get into, and if you have not seen that show, it is definitely worth the watch. It's really a fun watch. I also watch Enola Holmes, and I actually enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I mean, yeah, it does have its flaws, but with that being said, it's still a very enjoyable movie to watch.
Yeah, we really enjoyed our viewing of it, and we had a great time. There are some issues that we brought up in our review of Enola Holmes, which, as of recording, we released our review today. But overall, we did enjoy it, and that's exciting about Cobra Kai. I really got to get into that show. I know I watched the first like 3 or 4 episodes when it was being released on YouTube Premium or YouTube Red. I forget what it was called at the time.
Right,
but
yeah.
It's now on Netflix, and I have heard only good things about it. I've heard that it doesn't pull its punches. It doesn't try to be super politically correct, and I think that that's kind of a fun thing to do because it's so hard to find nowadays. Stuff that is just kind of old school and 80s-ish. So Jen has never seen The Karate Kid. So I'm going to have to show her. Yeah, she has to definitely see Karate Kid, and then we'll start up Cobra Kai, and maybe in a couple of weeks we'll do an episode about that.
Yeah, that would be a great run through. I love the original Karate Kid. It's amazing. I don't remember the third one so much, but I do remember liking the second one a lot. Daniel and Mr. Miyagi, they head off to Japan.
上等だ.
And it's really cool to see his experience over there. It's really nice, just a lot of the tributes that they have to Mr. Miyagi, and they definitely tribute Pat Morita, who portrays Mr. Miyagi, and that's definitely somebody that I would have loved to see in the show, but I mean, we can't because he's passed.
Yeah.
But with that being said, with what they do have, they did fantastic with the show. and there's definitely a lot of 80s, especially with Johnny. Johnny's kind of like somebody who's stuck in the 80s, and so some of the stuff that he says and the way he carries himself is very 80s. It's really funny. Like, I mean, when he gets a smartphone, he's trying to figure it out. He doesn't know how to use computers and stuff. It's funny. So he's kind of trying to catch up in this world that kind of left him behind.
Still kicking.
It's definitely enlightening because he wants to be a good person. He wants his dojo to be honor rather than how it was when his former master ran it. And so it's definitely a great show. It's fun to watch the push and pull Daniel versus Johnny. You definitely need to watch the show, and it would be a great idea for you to watch through the movies in preparation for watching the show.
Now, do you think that I should watch all three, or is it like, can I show Jen the Karate Kid and then jump into this show?
Dude, where is this cricket coming from?
Yeah, I know. I was noticing that too.
Like
whenever you record, no doubt that cricket shows up. He's just like, time to wake up.
Back into the fray.
Dude, in all seriousness, like, I think there was one recording recently that we didn't have it. It's annoying. Get out of here, cricket.
Curses and madness be upon you all.
To ask the question again, do you think that it'll be okay if I just watch the original Karate Kid and then jump into Cobra Kai, or should I try to watch all three of them?
So it really just covers the first movie, but the other movies are a good watch. I would definitely recommend watching the second one. The third one I want to watch through it again. I don't remember it enough. But the second one, I do remember that it left an impression on me, kind of like the first one.
I didn't even know that there was a third one, to be honest. I was gonna watch maybe one, I was gonna watch one with Jen, and then maybe two, depending on if she was interested. But I didn't even realize that there was a third one, so now my mind's being blown. All right, we should perhaps talk about this another time and actually get into the meat and bones of our discussion today, which is Overwatch, a game that we are both very passionate about. Unfortunately, I haven't played in a couple years at this point. At one point, it was something that I was playing several hours a day, and I had to stop because it was a serious addiction. My wife got very upset with me.
You are mistaken, brother. I am beyond redemption.
But I miss the game. I love the lore of the game, and I'm so excited to finally talk about it on Project Geekology because I have so much to say about some of the characters that I used to play, some of the shorts that they made that fleshed out all of these characters, and what's next for the franchise, because I'm going to be jumping right back in.
Overwatch holds a special place in my heart. It's produced by Blizzard Entertainment, which is one of my favorite companies.
Blizzard games? That's so old school. Oh.
They released a Warcraft series, which World of Warcraft is one of their most famous, the MMO.
It is their most famous game.
Exactly. Although the Warcraft games before that definitely helped them out a lot.
Absolutely.
StarCraft 2, also 1 and 2. There's also Diablo, which they're very...
trilogy of those games and expansions as well.
Blizzard alone, we could have an episode on. And so Overwatch is interesting because Overwatch, the game itself, is like a phoenix.
Affirmative.
Yeah, and
it rose from the ashes of a dead game that they were supposed to release.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
What's interesting about that, and yeah, that's a good point. We'll talk a little bit about the game that it was risen from. because conceptually it's based off of something else. But what's cool about Blizzard is they're not afraid to change up their game style. So Diablo and StarCraft and Warcraft, the original games were not too dissimilar in the way that their gameplay style was. You know what I mean, Anthony? It was mostly above the head, and you're kind of guiding your armies, and you're doing different things, whether it be like turret defense or gathering material and stuff like that. And then with
RTS, real-time strategy. That's what they were. Yeah, that was. They do have some older games though, also, like one called Lost Vikings.
I don't even really recognize that. Yeah, it's before my time, clearly.
Doesn't feel right coming back here.
When it came to World of Warcraft, that was their huge departure from the RTS gaming style. They took the idea of an MMO and over several years crafted what many to believe the perfect MMO, which was the original WoW classic, World of Warcraft. And to this day, there's I think there's 9 million, 10 million people still playing the game on a monthly basis. It's a testament to its staying power and the love of the company and everything, because it's been 15 years at this point. The game came out in 2005. We were kids when it came out. I remember you and me waking up from sleepovers at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, just to play a few extra hours in Ironforge, selling stuff at the auction house and trying to make some cash. It was a fun time. And then their most recent IP, which is what we're going to be talking about here today. If you aren't a fan of video games, if you aren't a fan of the superhero genre or whatever you think Overwatch is, there's something in it for you.
What can I say? Best of the best.
There's something of an emotional level and an artistic level that resonates with the player and the viewer too. You can go onto the YouTube channel, Play Overwatch, and just watch the animated shorts that they do, and they play seamlessly like little character portraits of Pixar films. You know, they have the same heart as a Pixar film, and that's what got me into the game to begin with. I think
the
it was
same quality, to be honest. They're very high quality shorts, and they all develop their characters in some way. And with that being said, this is one of the few games out there that doesn't have a campaign that found a way to develop its lore outside of the game.
I would kill for some boba. Milk tea, half sweet.
Let's talk a little bit about the game that this rose from. So, for a long time, for I don't know how many years, there was a long period of time where people were looking forward to a game in the works by Blizzard called Titan. We knew very, very little about it, but little details have sprinkled onto the internet through interviews and discussions since the game was basically shelved. It just wasn't working out. For whatever reason, they realized that the game, while interesting, wasn't fun. So they needed to do something else about it. And they used even some of the same characters that they were going to use in the Titan video game.
Yes.
And created Overwatch.
Howdy.
I know that Titan was supposed to be kind of like not really, but it was supposed to be almost like a successor to World of Warcraft. I think they were working on it to be an MMO, but instead of it being fantasy, it was supposed to be more sci-fi.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's where we got Tracer from.
Oh, Winston! Got your favourite.
Did someone say peanut butter?
Yeah, Tracer being one of the biggest characters in the Overwatch game, just one of the most notable characters because she's on the cover art for the box. She even made it into Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One in both the trailers and in the movie as one of the random hundreds of cameos in that fight scene. So she's a notable figure that people want to see on screen, and she's a fun character to play in the game. One of the cool things I like about Overwatch, and we can talk a little bit about the lore here. What makes a superhero universe work is the ability to picture yourself in it, the ability to understand the relationships between the characters, and some of the boundaries of the limitations of superpowers and or gadgetry.
Any chance you'd let me peek under the hood of your mech?
With stuff like DC, you have characters from Batman's standpoint who are just extremely smart individuals who are capable of creating immense technological power that's capable of standing up to the greats, which, you know, encompass like Superman and Green Lantern and all of them. So, and Marvel is kind of similar in the sense that you have characters like Tony Stark who can make powerful suits, and then you have characters like Captain America and Captain Marvel and Nova who are just super powerful beings. It's interesting because you can kind of see how these worlds shape and the boundaries of like, these are the street level heroes, these are the mid tier, and then these are like the god tier characters. Overwatch is kind of like that in a way, even though there's really no god tier characters up until this point of the story. Correct me if I'm getting anything wrong here about Overwatch, but that's something that I really appreciated with the Overwatch universe. It's a very grounded universe. There's no hugely super powerful people in the Overwatch universe. Most of it is technological based. It's just people who, from all corners of the world, came and wanted to help and be a hero, basically. And they joined the Overwatch Initiative? Is that what it was called?
I think it was just called Overwatch.
Overwatch, yeah, I think
you're right. But I mean, you could be right about the initiative part. One of the things that Blizzard is good at, if a character's abilities are being exploited a little bit too much, because sometimes they'll do a little bit of extra damage or something, Blizzard tries to fix that. They try to patch it out. Sometimes the patches work out and it makes people happy. Sometimes they patch things and it just pisses everybody off.
I'm gonna make you squeal.
Right.
I know that Blizzard is trying to find that balance. You know, you're not gonna make everybody happy. You're gonna make some people happy. You're gonna make some people mad. So it's kind of hard to please everybody. One of the cool things about Overwatch is that there's more than just Overwatch. There's Blackwatch, which is their Black Ops team. Mm-hmm. There's also Talon, which is the evil or quote-unquote villains of the Overwatch world.
What are you looking at?
But then there's also the Omnics, robots with AI that attacked, and that's why Overwatch was needed. And so after that war, the Omnics were fighting for equality. Some of them were actually good, like Zenyatta. Zenyatta is an Omnic.
Hatred is not strategy.
And so is Orisa.
Engaging fortifications.
And some of these other characters like Bastion.
What's interesting, and you've mentioned this earlier, you kind of touched upon how they buff certain characters' abilities and they nerf certain characters' abilities, meaning that they strengthen one particular set of attributes of a character, while nerf means to decrease the value or the damage rate of another character or their stats or whatever. So this buffing and nerfing that exists with the Overwatch world, with each inclusion of another character, it creates a new meta of gameplay, because with each character they have to eventually, the cascade effect of like, we have to reevaluate all the characters in the game to make it a playable and fun adventure where all the characters feel balanced. Nobody feels 100% like stronger than another character, because then everyone's going to want to play that character, and if you have that character on your team, you're going to be winning. So that's something that's really impressive to me about what Blizzard is capable of doing with the Overwatch world, and it becomes exponentially harder every time they add a new character. And I think that's why they've slowed down on the character creation recently, but that's not the only reason. Another reason is because they have actually announced, I believe 8 months ago, they announced via a cinematic short that they created an Overwatch 2. And I'm really excited about that, because I'm going to have to get back into the rhythm of the game at that point. One thing I always hoped for, and you touched upon this, is the idea of a story mode. I think the lore of the Overwatch world is so strong, and you have some seasonal events that are story-based. I know that there have been certain like Omnic uprisings that we've had like semi-story modes too.
Look at what Null Sector's done to the place.
But they were seasonal events. And those were so cool to me because we're getting bits and bytes of lore. Another great aspect of the game is all the voice acting that they have. So all these characters have different languages that they speak because they're from different parts of the world, and the voice actors are fantastic. Have you met any of the voice actors? I feel like you have.
Yes, I have. I've actually met several of them. I've met Mercy, I've met Symmetra, I've met Sombra.
Ahórranos tiempo y no te levantes.
I mean, they're all like really, really cool. Sombra was definitely one of my favorite voice actresses to meet. I've also met Junkrat, Roadhog. He was really cool. May sounds just... Her regular talking voice sounds just like her.
Hey, be reasonable.
Oh, so she's not even acting. She's just speaking into a microphone?
Yeah, like that's what it sounds like. I was like, oh my gosh, she kind of looks like her character. There's a few that I've wished that I could meet, and that's McCree, Diva, and Lucio.
Well, I know you're a huge Diva fan. I'm looking at Anthony through Google Hangouts, the webcam feature. He's wearing a Diva headphone set, and it's very cool. I mean, I would love... I'm wearing just the stupid like Turtle Beach crap that I get at Best Buy or whatever. But yeah, some of the voice acting is so crucial to the game because some of like the little lines that you would get even when you're playing the game, when you walk past another character, because this is a multiplayer game. It's a team-based game, so when you're walking past other characters or when you're in the waiting room, there's moments where your character will voice an emote, or they'll voice a line that's specific to that character, and sometimes there'll even be a little bit of back and forth.
For a man of your years, you're looking pretty good, Jack.
Admit it, Anna. This is better than retirement.
That's the beauty of this game. So it's almost like you are playing a story mode in the sense that you're learning about these characters the more you play them. You're learning more about their background, you're learning about what they like and what they dislike, and you're learning about who they like and who they dislike. It's a genius strategy. But again, I would love a story mode. Heck, I would love a movie. And I think I've mentioned this several times. I think as great as the animated shorts are, because they range from like 5 to 10 minutes or something like that, they can, if they can put all that, whatever team that is, and make a little short movie, that would be fantastic. And I know that they'd knock it out of the park because they've knocked every other short out of the park. The first time I saw the clip for Bastion, which is a character who is a Omnic. He was shut down during a battle in Germany, and many years later, after the city was like, growing back in terms of like foliage and forest and stuff, this character, Bastion, who is an Omnic droid who can't speak, he just bleeps out in bleeps and bloops like R2-D2, is this soldier droid that is just walking through the forest trying to figure out where the heck he is. And he's joined by a little bird. I think, what is the name of the bird? Ganymede? Is that what he named the bird?
Yeah, something along those lines. It's crazy that, I mean, he's this robot, but he develops this attachment to this bird.
Mm-hmm.
And it does show that Omnics have a quote-unquote heart. A heart. They have that ability to love.
Right, there's an emotional range there in the Omnics, and that's first seen in Bastion. Although now there's other Omnic characters on the series, other robot characters. There was originally Zenyatta as well, but now there's Orisa, there's Echo, and others. So that's pretty cool. When I first saw that short, I think that was when I realized I need to play this game, because I started tearing up. I was watching, like, my brother watch the animated short, and I was like, wow, I gotta get into this. This looks beautiful. Ever since then, I've loved the lore. Like, if I were to, like, rank superhero universes, I would rank Overwatch's lore just because it's so solid. It makes so much sense, and it's so cohesive and enjoyable and fresh.
If we work in unison, our defense will be impenetrable.
I would rank it right up there with, like, some of the better Marvel and DC universes that we've seen over the past couple decades. Yeah, I gush about the lore of this series, and one of my favorite things when I was playing. I don't know how regular they are about doing this still. You might know this a little bit better than I, but they had every couple weeks they would change new outfits, or they would add new outfits to each of the characters or some of the characters. So there'd be like Chinese New Year outfits for characters, and then there'd be Christmas outfits, and then there'd be Easter outfits.
I am not the Easter Bunny.
Are they still doing that, Anthony?
Right, so they do that during the seasonal events, and yeah, they've still been doing it. They've had, well, I think it ended today, but Tracer, she had a comic book challenge where she had this getup that, or her skin was kind of like a comic book type skin, and then she has sprays that also kind of are like voice lines.
Check me out.
And it's like comic book
like font and like pop culture,
yeah,
like
right.
dots.
So like one will say zap, and so she'll spray it and she'll say zap
or
that's
pow.
Kind
of fun. That's fun. Yeah, that's nice.
So yeah, they have stuff like that. They have little challenges that they'll bring out in between the seasonal events. They did, I believe it was last year or the year before that, they had this big update that added stock skins to their characters, which was something that I was saying forever, because I do believe that it's cool that they have these seasonal event skins, but they really needed to update they really needed to add skins that weren't attached to an event, if you know what I'm saying. Because, I mean, you can only get those skins during those events, and once those events are over, you can't get it again until that event comes up again. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a while. You were talking about the lore, and the cool thing about Overwatch 2 is that they're going to add a single player mode to it. There's going to be a campaign to it.
Really?
And yes.
Awesome.
It's all about life's little pleasures.
Overwatch 2 is kind of like an expansion, really. Because they were talking about everything that they add to the multiplayer and like new characters that they add are going to be updated in the base Overwatch game, like just regular Overwatch, So one of the characters that they have spoken about was Sojourn, and so she's going to be releasing when Overwatch 2 comes out, but she won't just be Overwatch 2, or she won't just be locked to Overwatch 2. You'll be able to play her in regular Overwatch. So you don't have to buy Overwatch 2 if you just want to play the multiplayer. Overwatch 2 is more if you want that single player or that campaign.
I am not deterred.
And there's some other stuff that they added to it also. There's a couple other game modes that I think are locked to Overwatch 2. And it's definitely cool. It's something that I am looking forward to. I mean, I have Overwatch on everything. I have it on PC, I have it on PlayStation, I have it on Xbox, and I have it on the Switch.
I think, yeah, you don't need any more. You need some story mode in your life. That's what you need.
Right. So, yeah, the biggest thing is that, yeah, I enjoy the game a lot. My preferred way of playing it is definitely PC. But I have people on each system that plays, and I join people on each one of these systems to play. So, I mean, I know that at some point you're going to hop on PlayStation, so, yeah, I can play with you on PlayStation.
Yo, jump on with me. Let's go.
Roadhog time.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know that you did a lot of Twitch streaming with Overwatch, and your character of choice, from what I remember, is definitely D.Va.
Yes. She's my top. So is Lucio. I'll definitely go through like my list of mains that I've evolved. I remember when the game first came out, I tried out different characters until I sat on Junkrat.
Enemy turret over there!
I played Junkrat for a while. I definitely was like beasting with him. And then I expanded to healers, to support. And man, the game has just changed so much. I mean, I remember when Symmetra was considered a support. She was a support character at one point.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
My two mains at like when I was playing were Hanzo and Symmetra. And I haven't played in a bit. Is Symmetra still capable of healing people?
Her ability wasn't really healing. It was that she would give shields.
You're right. Yes. Yeah, you're right.
So she doesn't have that ability anymore. She's gone through quite a bit of rework.
She's the one I think that has changed the most. I mean, her gameplay style is very similar, but her methods over the years have changed dramatically in terms of what she's useful for.
Right. So her initial ultimate ability was a teleporter.
Yes.
My teleporter is offline.
Then they changed it to half shield generator, half teleporter, and then she would be able to shoot out like these little mini shields that would like block. And then now they have it to where so she has a teleporter all the time, but it's a specific distance. It has to be a specific distance from each other. It can be useful. And then her ultimate ability is just a huge shield that like covers like the entire, it's like a thin shield, but it spans the entire map. So you could throw that. Yeah, no,
that's
it's
cool.
Huge.
That's different. Yeah, that's way different.
So yeah,
behind you.
Torbjorn has gone through a rework. He'd have molten core, but his turret doesn't upgrade to like a third level, like the way it was. And his turret is automatically like a level 2 turret. I remember when you would put out a turret, it would start off as like this little turret, and then like you would build onto it and make it bigger. So it's kind of, so they changed that. He used to give out armor packs. He doesn't do that anymore. Yeah, they've definitely done a lot of reworks. Mercy, she used to have like a huge res that she can do. Resurrecting is like one of her regular abilities, but it has like a 30-second cooldown. And so she has this thing called Valkyrie that she can like fly around, and her abilities are boosted. Like her healing, instead of just focusing on one person, it kind of webs out to like nearby people. And so does like the power boost. And then I believe her pistol gets the damage boost also. So they've done, I mean, I could go like the whole day and talking about reworks that they've done.
I'm not a psychopath. I'm a high-functioning psychopath.
For the most part, I don't know that our audience is necessarily, active players of the game. So we don't want to get too technical with that. I just know that when I was a Hanzo main, one of my favorite moves was the scatter shot, and that was the move that everyone hated.
Yeah.
Because it literally it's an arrow shot that once it hits its target, it blows up into 10 or 12 different like little shots that do little damage that ricochet around little rooms, and you don't need any skill for that at all. It's just the funnest thing to do.
Well, they changed that, by the way.
Yeah, I know. That's sorry, I was trying to get to that. Yeah, after I stopped playing, they changed Scattershot to something else, and I kind of miss it. So
such beauty is wasted upon the soul of a killer.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit about like what Overwatch means in this universe. You spoke a little bit about how Overwatch over the past couple decades, and this is, we're talking about a universe that hasn't existed for a couple decades, but in the lore, there are different teams that have been the Overwatch team of their decade. So you have characters like Reinhardt, who were OG Overwatch characters in this timeline. And then you have new characters like Tracer and Winston and characters like that who've eventually joined Overwatch and become the new face of Overwatch. So this is a universe that exists, I want to say like 25 to 40 years. And they started with their popularity kind of peaked with the Omnic Uprising.
We've detected a new energy signature up ahead. Looks like a new Omnic.
And their necessity of saving the world was because of that. And for whatever reason, the people of the world, the governments shut them down. So they've been working in secret. So you have little missions here and there with characters like Mei or Winston.
Oh, thanks. I like yours too.
Winston being a talking gorilla who's capable of, creating these massive force fields and stuff like that. He's really cool.
No monkey business.
Throughout all of these animated shorts, you're seeing disparate characters that are just kind of like living their own little adventures outside of the Overwatch realm. And it's kind of a little bit depressing because you're seeing characters outside of their prime. You're seeing characters who are no longer huge friends, or not necessarily huge friends, but partners in heroics. And they're just doing their own little vigilante stuff on the side. But with the announcement cinematic that we received for Overwatch 2, we finally see the team coming back together to defeat a new, bigger, badder Omnic Uprising. And Anthony, you said that the new game will have a story mode, and that will be the primary purpose of the game. That excites me to no end because
it's like this new Omnic Uprising that's happening, and that's what's going to take place in Overwatch 2. I think that they picked the perfect way to announce Overwatch 2 with a cinematic.
Yeah, and in the cinematic we see characters like Winston and Tracer and Mei.
忽如一夜春风来，千树万树梨花开.
Who are like the very, very last of the Overwatch team, just fighting it out, potentially to the death. They get a bit of saving grace as more team members from over the years show up and help them out. And basically, someone in the crowd, I think it's a police officer in France, asks Winston, "Does this mean Overwatch is back?" And Winston's like, "Yes. Yes, it is." And it's such a beautiful way to like reinvigorate this universe that is kind of in a depressing state. Obviously, the game isn't depressing, but the overall lore that surrounds it is one of defeat.
I haven't even broken a sweat.
With Overwatch 2, there's now hope that's going to be coming because we have heroes joining the fray. And I'm so excited about it. I can't wait. Is there a date for the game?
No, they haven't released anything definitive yet, but I am excited about Overwatch 2 because right now, as it is, the game isn't as widely talked about now. It is kind of like in a recessive state where, I mean, there's a lot of people that do play the game, but it's not as popular. You don't really see too much Overwatch merchandise now. It's still out there, but it's not as popular as it was maybe a couple years ago. And so I want it to gain popularity again. So with Overwatch, I do have a love-hate relationship with it. As in, I love to play the game, but sometimes I hate it at the same time because I get frustrated when I lose a lot. But overall, I enjoy the game still. I want it to gain popularity again. I want to have my group of friends come back to the game. And I hope that Overwatch 2 brings that back. Because Overwatch, when it came out, it was definitely something very special. I mean, I got it day one because I was so impressed by it from the open beta that they had prior to that.
Let's keep the payload moving.
Yeah, so, I played it for like a year and a half straight. That was the only game that I touched. Like legit, my brother, he gets new games every freaking week that a game comes out. But I played Overwatch like religiously for a long time, and it was so good. It was such a good game. And I'm looking at like recent reviews of Overwatch, and there's one article I just found. Overwatch in 2020. How is this game still so popular? So there's still a crowd playing the game. There's still a large group of people who actively love this universe and they want to play more of it. And they're still having fun playing these characters and doing these team-based missions and, battling it out. I'm so excited about what they can possibly do with a second game. I think, Anthony, when Overwatch 2 comes out, I want to have an actual one-on-one review with you on Geekritique. We can always talk about it here on the show, but I think that it'd be really good after beating the story mode that you and I on Geekritique review the game.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that because I love talking Overwatch.
Bastian, how are you liking that new armor Papa made for you?
Like I said, Overwatch is special to me. I don't remember if I ever told you. I've played Overwatch competitively for college.
Yeah, you told me about that. You got to tell me more about that because I remember you were playing competitively for your college class. How did that go anywhere or what?
You will never amount to anything.
That was actually a pretty fun experience. So I played 2 seasons for my college. It was through the computer club. There was a good amount of us on that team. I think we had 8 or 9 people on the team. And sometimes people would rotate out, but I was a starter on the team. I was somebody that would start the match, and if somebody needed to switch out, then they would switch out. I generally played the entire match, and it was pretty fun. During that time, that was back when I was maining Lucio. I played a lot of Lucio during that time, and so I was a support main back then. And we actually got pretty far in our first season. We made it to the second round in the playoffs.
That's awesome, man.
So, yeah, and we're playing against teams throughout the United States. It was something that I had never done before, and it was like the closest that I got to...
eSports?
eSports, yeah, pretty much.
That's cool. That's awesome.
I mean, and that's actually a good segue to the Overwatch League.
Yeah, talk about that for a little bit, because that's something I know absolutely zero about.
I knew I forgot something.
So the Overwatch League, it is something that Blizzard set up with the idea in mind that they kind of wanted it like an organized sport, kind of like, you know, basketball or like football. I would say mainly maybe more like basketball because, you know, it's indoors.
Mm-hmm.
So they had the inaugural season in 2018, and I watched it like crazy back then. I stayed current with the entire season. Every once in a while I will watch a match. Maybe it's a little bit different because COVID kind of changed it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
This season was supposed to have homestands. They were supposed to have it where people would go to, or teams would go to another team's city and they would play. It was cool because it would be teams going to that one city's arena, and they would be playing there that week. I wanted to go to, and this was supposed to happen way back in March. I was going to go to the one that they had here in Miami, but it never happened.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so it's really cool because they have teams from around the world. They have teams in Europe. They have, obviously, here in the United States. They have them in Korea, China, just several places. And after that first season, they expanded teams. They have Vancouver, like Canada. And so it's definitely an interesting idea. I just don't know what they're going to do to keep it fresh.
Fly like an Egyptian.
With organized sports, they change things to kind of keep it fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And with esports, it's a bit different. So I'm interested in seeing how this continues to go on. I mean, I would love for it to continue to go on. I just don't know how popular it is nowadays.
So esports is an interesting concept. It's proven that people enjoy watching others play video games, and they enjoy watching people play video games well, especially. That's the entire point of Twitch. That's the entire point of esports. You know, you actually have paid players playing for teams in certain different games.
EMP charged.
The problem with that is this is a new medium. This is a new medium of sport teams, and it's a different type of sport entirely. So it's all video game related. It has nothing to do with actual athletic ability. We're dealing with quote-unquote athletes that are playing with controllers and mousepads. So the big difference here with esports is longevity, and we don't really know what that means when it comes to esports. Obviously, we know baseball has existed for 100 years. Football has existed for, 60, 70 years at this point. Soccer is a game that's been around for centuries. But will esports last past this initial burst, this bubble? And it's interesting that Blizzard has their own division of this esports thing, which is the Overwatch League. And I'm excited to see where it goes. Obviously, I don't know much about it, but there's a lot to question about the longevity and the actual worth of like team-based stuff like that. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff that like with actual sports requires changing. And, you know, to the average eye who doesn't watch basketball, you just see a bunch of guys on a court dribbling balls. But there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes to keep games fresh. You rotate players, you sign new players, you have to get rid of old players, and teams trade and stuff. So it's a little bit different with esports because I don't know, do teams trade players?
So yes, and then there's also a period where some players, they'll leave a team and then they'll get picked up by another team, which, you know, like is almost like a waiver wire. Which is like football speak. But it's interesting to see how they're going to continue. And, well, at least for this game. Because, like I said, the way basketball is played now is different than how it was when it first was invented.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So with esports, there's no real way to change it unless you change it the way that it's played. If that makes sense.
Well, I think that will eventually happen.
Right.
That will eventually
Ready
happen
Player
because, you have Ready Player One. But I mean, to say that every couple years you have another generation of gaming. You have the next model of the big games that are being played right now. You have different generations of these titles. While the actual difficulty of these games wavers, what doesn't waver is multiplayer. That continues to grow as the players get better. So single-player games nowadays are generally a lot easier to play than single-player games in, say, like PlayStation 2 era. But for the most part, when it comes to multiplayer games where you're attacking another team or you're attacking another player, you're only as good as the player that you're playing against, you know? And if they continue to keep getting better, it continues to keep getting interesting. And that with each generation of gaming, you'll find those players or new players will meet the challenge of whatever comes with that console or the system or the game.
The sword is an elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
Yeah, it does. So, something that I would like to talk about is, I mean, we've talked about characters that we were drawn to and played. There's characters that we quote-unquote mained, which is a character that you play all the time, or characters that you play all the time. I would definitely like to talk a little bit about some of the characters. The roster's too big to go through all of them.
Yeah.
Obviously, Diva is my favorite. She's this little Korean girl that was a professional gamer before she built her mech and joined Overwatch. That short that she has is really cool. I thought that was a really cool short. I enjoyed that.
She does have a cool short, yeah. And she's kind of like a K-pop star as well.
I always, for some reason, I think she's like a StarCraft 2 player or something along those lines.
Which makes sense because in Korea, StarCraft 2 is like, it was at least at one point one of the biggest games in the esports world there. There were like 3 dedicated channels to StarCraft in Korea. But yeah, there's a lot of different characters.
Los Muertos is a cancer on this city.
One of the characters that I found really interesting when I first started playing was Farah, who's the daughter of an ex-Overwatch character, Anna. And Farah is awesome because she's basically like an Iron Man type character. She has a suit that she's built that's capable of flying, and she shoots missiles out of her fists. So she's really awesome.
Well, it's a gun.
Oh, you're right. It's a gun.
Yeah,
but it's a gun. Cannon gun.
Yeah. No, it's really cool because you can actually see it working when she shoots. The compartment that holds the missiles rotates.
Yeah, that's awesome. Obviously, we talked about Bastion. We talked about Winston, who's this big gorilla that grew up on the moon and is suddenly, just one of the coolest characters ever.
I got you something.
We have Mercy, who's kind of like an angel type character. By the way, I'm looking at a roster, Anthony. I'm not just coming up with these characters off the top of my head. There's like 28 or 29 at this point.
There's definitely a lot of characters on that roster, and you've got it right. Those are some Overwatch characters that were in the OG release.
Yeah.
Except Anna was the first additional.
Yeah, I think she was hero number 21 or whatever.
Yeah, we could go over this roster, but there are too many characters. We're sorry if we didn't talk about one of your favorite characters, but just know that we know that there's tons of amazing characters in this game, and we're both excited for Overwatch 2. Hope you guys are also. And next week, we're looking to take a dive into Scott Pilgrim, both the movie and the graphic novels. And I'm pretty excited about that because I love the Scott Pilgrim movies. I haven't read the novels in a while, so it'll be really fun to revisit that. Alright guys, have a safe week, and we will see you next episode. Dakota, you have any closing remarks?
I'm so excited for Scott Pilgrim. I'm sad that we're finishing up our Overwatch discussion because it's such a game. It's a game that I hold so dearly to my heart. But I'm excited to talk Scott Pilgrim because that's perhaps one of the most underrated movies of the past decade. So I think that's something that we got to talk about. Obviously, we got to talk about the comic that created it. And yeah, I'm excited for that. So Anthony, thank you for having me on. Again, sorry I'm late this episode. Still catching up on all those videos for Geekritique and Book Critique, and now Project Geekology. So we're definitely going to be back, and we're going to be on track soon, and I'm excited about that. Yeah, so thanks guys. See you soon.
Catch you next episode.
Victory!
My wanderings brought me to this place. It was not to my liking.